it did, okay. All right, give you Bryson. All right, it is Tuesday, February 10th, 2026, and I call this working session of the Elizabeth School District Board of Education to order at 6 p.m. Can I get a roll call, please?
Director Callahan?
Here.
Director Fletcher?
Here.
Director Hunt?
Here.
Director Olson?
Here.
Director Powell?
Here.
Okay, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I move that the board approve this agenda for the February 10th, 2026 working session as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? No? Okay, can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan?
Aye.
Director Fletcher?
Aye.
Director Hunt?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Aye.
Okay, I move that the board approve the minutes from the Board of Education business meeting on January 26th, 2026.
Second.
Can I get a roll?
Okay,
Any
Director
discussion on
Yes.
that? All right, can I get a roll call?
Okay, Director Callahan? Director Fletcher?
Aye.
Director Hunt?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Aye.
Okay, next up we have public comment. So we'll go ahead and get it started. We got 30 minutes allocated for public comment. Each person gets 3 minutes, so we're going to start off with Lisa Beach.
Figure out how to do this.
Good.
Hang on.
Oh.
Sorry.
But if it's red, I'm good, right?
Yes.
Whoa.
Let's do
That's
this.
really dramatic.
No way I can follow that.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'll just do my timer on my phone.
That was kind of cool.
Sorry about
Okay,
that.
so we'll go ahead and kick it off with
Yeah,
iPhone
that's what I was
timer.
thinking.
Okay.
All right. I'm just here today to advocate for have you help me maybe get the word out about the TLCC survey. So this is from CDE, and it's that acronym is Teaching and Learning Conditions Colorado. It's for all staff, and it's an anonymous survey. So I think it would help you gain some really important data to back up your decisions. It takes less than 10, well, I would say about 10 to 15 minutes for staff to complete. The key categories are instructional practices and support, school and staff leadership, professional development, managing student conduct, use of time, facilities and resources, and family and community support. So you get the results in about 6 weeks, and it really just gives you some data on how staff is feeling and views these different categories that could really help guide some decision making. I also would hope that it would give us some insight into the trend we see, unfortunately, around staff retention. We have a turnover rate of about 40%, which is more than the surrounding districts. So hopefully that could give you a little bit of insight into why those things are happening. It gives you some information on why things are working well, what needs improved, and can hopefully help you guide some initiatives with data. So how this works is it's an anonymous survey. Staff gets codes, anonymous codes passed out to them, so their names aren't ever attached to the survey. I know that at EMS, the teachers have gotten them. They're in their boxes. Oh, let me grab my phone because I have the data. And you can check the rates live on the CDE website. So for right now at Elizabeth High School, they have 0% responding, and the survey closed on February 23rd. It started on January 21st. So I guess I'm also wondering if staff members have the information, or if that's something that you guys could help with, get out. The middle school has 5 people that have filled it out so far. Running Creek 0, Legacy 0, the preschool 0 staff members, and Singing Hill 0. So that makes me wonder if they have the codes, but maybe they do, I'm not sure. So anyway, I'm just asking to help get the word out. You need 50% staff participation in order to even get results. So it would be, I feel like, a really great thing for the board to get a pulse on how the staff feels. Thank you.
Okay. Next up, we have Michelle Thompson.
Let me know when I can go. I've never done this before.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you guys for taking the time for me today. I'm actually here to speak on a new micromanagement system within our high school that I'm not sure everybody's aware of, called Munga. I would like to alert the board and parents that this program exposes private and personal things about our children directly to administrators that no one should know, including when bathrooms are used and how much time is spent in the bathroom by our individual students. This system should be rolled back out of the schools immediately to preserve the bodily autonomy of our students. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Next up, we have Michelle Gazinski.
I again urge the board to end the ACLU lawsuit. The books in question sat on library shelves for years without incident and caused no harm. They could have been quietly removed due to lack of use. Instead, the board chose a highly public and contentious approach that predictably invited a lawsuit. Parents already had the ability to restrict their own children from accessing these materials. That choice existed and still does. The question now is whether the board truly supports parental choice. Respecting parents' rights necessarily includes honoring choices that you may not personally agree with. Without that principle, the First Amendment and the very foundation of our country loses its meaning. Public schools are for all the kids in our neighborhoods, not just the ones who think like you. Instead of hiring 4 or 5 teachers, district funds were spent on attorneys. Instead of addressing basic needs like parking lots, building maintenance, or replacing lead-contaminated water fixtures, those resources again went to legal fees. And this appears to be only the beginning, given the statements that this case will be taken to the Supreme Court and could continue for years, as we've been told. I'm asking plainly, how does that place students, our kids here in Elizabeth, at the heart of your decision making? And I'm glad to see the budget on the agenda again tonight. I hope to hear an in-depth discussion about how and why the budget slid funds around to afford the new consultants and legal fees. I'm again requesting that the district conduct a forensic audit, given the significant fluctuations in the budget. Duplicating a highly paid executive role while reading and math scores remain poor raises serious concerns about whether students are truly being prioritized. This is a small district with 4 schools. We should be maximizing classroom teachers, not administrators. If the board chooses not to conduct a forensic audit, please clearly explain why it's not necessary. You've shown that there is room in the budget for new expenses. I'm just asking that you use them wisely. Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have Roxanne Abias.
Avila.
Abilas?
Yeah.
Good
All right.
evening. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to state for the record that as the 4th Congressional District State Advisory Council for Parent Involvement in Education representative, I requested a 10 to 15 minute time slot on the agenda for this evening to discuss miscommunication around SAC Pi, and that request was denied by the board president. I'm here tonight to comment on the proposed revisions to the parent engagement and education policy, specifically the removal of the word families. I want to begin by acknowledging that I understand and respect the importance of protecting student privacy and limiting access to protected educational records. However, this policy is not about access. It's about engagement, and those are two very different things. Engagement is about who is welcomed into partnerships with schools, who is encouraged to participate, and who feels invited into the educational process. Access to protected information is already governed by state and federal law. This policy sets the tone for culture, inclusion, and collaboration. What's particularly concerning is that this change does not align with how engagement already functions within our district. Our district and school accountability committees, FAC, the board CRC, and PTCOs are made up of parents and community members, not solely parents or legal guardians. These groups regularly include grandparents of students, caregivers, and extended family members who are actively involved in supporting children's education. By removing the word families, the district risks sending an unintended message that these individuals, who are already volunteering, advising, and leading within our engagement structures, are less welcomed or less valued, and that does not increase engagement, it limits it. For many students, grandparents and extended family members are the consistent adults attending meetings, supporting learning at home, and advocating for student success. Removing inclusive language does not reflect the lived realities of our students or our community. If the district's goal is truly to increase engagement, strengthen partnership, and build trusting relationships around student success, then inclusive language matters. I urge the board to reconsider this revision and ensure that this policy reflects both the legal framework and the realities of the families and community members who support our students every day. Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have Misty Churkovich? Churkovich?
Yep, Churkovich, thank you. All right, is it on?
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, good evening, members of the school board. I would like to read some of what I wrote in the board meeting last month, as I believe the community needs to hear this again. My family and I moved to Elizabeth 2 years ago. We moved here to get our young daughter out of the city life. We love our school, our community, and more importantly, the morals and values the schools have and upheld. I pray that never changes. This letter is written personally to the organization and the individuals suing Elizabeth School District. My family and I continue to be disgusted over this. Not only is it disappointing, but it's also disheartening. I know I personally speak for several families when I say this. What right do you have as parents to have filth in our schools for our and my children to read? If you want your children to have these smut materials, read them in your own homes. I will say and continue to say, how dare you? What happened to just kids' books, age-appropriate kids' books? Books I read in elementary and middle school, like Charlotte's Web, James and the Giant Peach, and Dr. Seuss, to name a few. I'd like to understand from any of the parents here or listening to the meeting this evening that are for this lawsuit, what do you get out of this? For the folks in the community here tonight that haven't heard what books are being thought to be allowed in our schools the last 2 years or need a refresher, let me give you one. I would also encourage you to continue to check the updates on the ESD website. I will read a couple of the paragraphs which I read before from 2 of these books. One of the books is called The Hate You Give, inspired by the Black Lives Matter. Fooling around isn't new for us, and when Chris slipped his hand into my shorts, I didn't think anything of it. Then he got me going, and I wasn't really thinking at all. For real. My thought process went out the door, and right as I was at that moment, he stopped, reached into his pocket, and pulled out a condom. As a grown adult, I can tell you that this is uncomfortable reading. The bluest eye contains themes like rape, incest, racism, and self-hatred. The confused mixture of his memories of Pauline and the doing of a wild and forbidden thing excited him, and a bolt of desire ran down his genitals, giving it length and softening the lips of his anus. Surrounding all of this lust was a border of politeness. He wanted to fuck her tenderly. To the community, this is just some of the smut being fought to stay in our schools and libraries. This is gross. Where is the educational value? Let kids be kids, that's it. That's it. I will continue to speak up in support of our school district and for parents everywhere. I speak for many others when I say thank you to the board And thank you guys for doing what's right by our kids. Thank you.
For public comment. So next up, we have the requested budget
Sure,
update.
sure. So, needless to say, there's been a lot of misinformation that seems to be pretty prevalent in our community. When we don't like something, we try to find facts that we can try to twist. In our last budget update, we provided to the board, there was an immediate attention to the board salaries line. The board salaries line typically only includes our board clerk. And so typically that's Jamie Glazebrook, all of her benefits. What people may not understand in public education is benefits are anywhere from 30 to 40% in some cases, depending on how much that individual is being paid. We did place some money into the board budget because we have some major transitions happening. We have our chief academic officer who's retiring at the end of the year, which is leading some critical work for our district in academic performance. We have our coordinator of HR who's retiring after 30 years. We also have our finance coordinator who's retiring. And so those are positions that in the past the board has made it very clear that we want a transition period. We don't want to see that knowledge walk out the door and then hope that somebody figures it all out. And so based upon that expectation that's been placed upon me, we did put money in the board budget. The budget is you must authorize the spending of dollars before they can be spent. In that particular case, we didn't know who was going to be hired when. We didn't know the exact cost. And so there was $75,000 added into the salary line of the board budget. I don't know how many people know that the state of Colorado actually in 2021 authorized board members to vote to pay themselves. Kind of shocked me back when they did that. The school districts who have done that right now are Denver Public Schools, Aurora Public Schools, and Sheridan School District have voted to pay their board members. Needless to say, this board has not. This is an all-volunteer board that's committed to ensuring the dollars go to kids. And so it's just really important that unfortunately when people spin facts, when they give false facts out on social media, even when they're provided the real facts, that somehow it does lead to miscommunication within our community. So our budget, we're very proud of the budget process because we actually are very transparent. We break it down by school. You see massive increase in spending at the school level. Some of that's because we've increased spending at school level. Some of that's because for years this district has accounted for things in odd budgets. For instance, 2 years ago, all of the paper in our district was charged to the maintenance budget. So when you looked at the maintenance budget, did you realize that you were probably talking 45 pallets of paper? So we have worked really hard to be very transparent to make sure that everybody can see exactly where dollars are being spent. And that's what our budget has done. We are on track to restore $2.2 million of fund balance at the end of the year. That's having that $75,000 in there so that as we do identify our replacements, we have our academic systems consultant that we already had start with us to again lead some of these academic initiatives that we started. We've actually hired an HR coordinator that will be starting after spring break, and we are in the midst of interviewing for our finance coordinator. So again, it's just unfortunate that people will sow distrust out in the community by printing false harebrained ideas on social media. And so if anyone ever wants to sit down, if anyone ever wants to see the backup documentation, all they have to do is call and we'll schedule time and show them the backup documentation to all of these budgets. So I think it was just really important to set the record straight. The board members are not being paid. Board members have never taken a salary, nor have they ever expressed an interest. And that money, before the end of the year, will be moved into the appropriate budget lines. So where we have our chief academic officer's replacement, that will be moved into curriculum once we know how much that will cost us. We don't anticipate that will cost us a full $75,000, but we felt like it was important to make sure we had the budget authority to spend that, to make sure that we did have smooth transitions in this district with some really key people retiring at the end of the year. So happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Those districts you mentioned are liberal school districts. It's not a coincidence that, because liberals think that they should get paid, they believe that they are above us. So, you know.
It is concerning. One Denver Public Schools pays themselves $33,000 a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
For a board member, and they have a large board.
It's not surprising. Not a coincidence. So,
Anyways, I'm proud of the work we're doing. Our audit is next month. We'll go through our audit. Our change in finance directors has been very much a breath of fresh air with really getting us on track and bringing so many initiatives that the board's aware of to the district to ensure that we're investing long-term in the district. So we're excited about the work, and like I said, happy to always answer questions if people have them.
Well, and one thing I want to tack on to that, this whole situation. So after that last meeting, it was referenced tonight, the board received an email that, to be honest, was blatantly disrespectful, filled with accusatory tones of wrongdoing. But I gotta say, that is nothing, absolutely nothing, compared to the vitriol, the outright attack on Dan via email. And I have to say, after that, it spread to social media, included a campaign of innuendos made before having the facts. And I gotta say, there really has been quite the stink made by some in our community on social media lately. I do have to ask myself why. Last fall, it was leading up to an election, so I figured, okay, it's par for the course. All I can chalk it up to this time is trying to distract us, discourage us from our mission of improving academic outcomes and opportunities for the students in our district. And to be honest with you, it's almost like the mentality is if they lose, if we lose, if we fail, then they win. And it's really, truly sad. It is. One thing I have to say is, regardless, we're not going to lose our focus on improving the outcomes for our students and respecting our parental rights in the process. And one thing I would like to address, one clarification. Thank you for your support of us in the lawsuit. And the books are on the shelf, folks. They're on the shelf. So that was a misstatement. The ACLU and the people who initiated the case, they do not want them behind lock and key, so the parents can't control the access to those books in our libraries. All right, that's all I got. Next up, policy KB, parent engagement and education. So this has the final revisions that we discussed, the stuff that you brought forward last time. Do you want to comment on that any further?
Oh, I think it's a wonderful updated version. Thank you for following through on the edits. I would just add two small changes. In the very first paragraph, we reference, in this policy, the word parent means a child. I think it's best to just call children students because that's what they are in the district. I've mentioned that before. But I think if we update that to just say the student's parent or legal guardian, I prefer that lingo. And the last is much more process. But the very last paragraph, we don't need to say the district accountability. We've already said that above. We can just call it the DAC. So that is my other edit. But I think this very well reflects the title of the policy, which is parent engagement in education. And to me, this is about making sure that parents' rights are protected. We always, of course, invite families and others who are involved in a student's life to be part of our school community. That's why they're on our advisory councils. But this policy is about making sure the parents' rights are preeminent. And so it's the parents that need to be highlighted here and or their guardians.
Okay, so those are the two changes. So in the very first paragraph, change child's to student.
Students.
And then paragraph 4, change district accountability committee to DEC.
Yep.
Not paragraph 4.
Well, sorry, the very last paragraph.
It's the very last paragraph.
It's just where it says that and then DAC again, but that's already it.
Yeah.
We've already
Two
used the
paragraphs
acronym,
above,
so
it's
you don't
already-
need to again.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
so you're
spelled it
okay
out
in
in-
number 4, leaving it?
Yes, it's just the last paragraph.
All right.
Just the last one.
And I just want to say, I agree with the fact that we absolutely welcome, you know, other, like grandparents and whoever else to come in, and they already are, and we do have, you know, community members participating in all these committees, and this is absolutely not going to discourage them from doing that. I don't see how this would discourage them, just because it kind of homes in on parents and guardians and doesn't include the whole family structure. So I agree that, you know, it should just kind of home in on the parents' rights and protecting those, but it certainly does not discourage the involvement of extended family members in any of these processes. We love it when, you know, grandparents come in and et cetera. We love that, so.
Family's been made nebulous by people who have nefarious purposes, so we have to guard against
Protect
that.
it,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So with that, we will bring this back for action, or actually, I think we can make those changes and bring it back on consent. Okay. Okay. Next up, policy IMDb, flag displays. And this is legal references only. So there were some legal reference changes made to the policy. Any question or concerns on those, or this policy? Okay.
We did provide you, I think, almost identical policy from another district. I think some districts have utilized this policy to limit other flags from being displayed on district property. And that's something certainly if the board wanted to explore, that could be something we would explore before bringing this back. I think we thought the other district might have had that, and I don't see that in there. So if that's something of interest, we certainly can explore that. It clearly states the United States and Colorado flags shall be displayed, and I think that's appropriate. So.
Well, and it says right here, temporary displays of instructional or historical materials or work products used as part of a lesson that includes the flag shall be allowed. So in those cases, it would be temporarily displayed as part of the instruction. I do like D49's their last sentence is kind of short and sweet compared to our last. So, district employees and students have the right to reasonably display the flag of the United States on their own person, personal property, and/or property under their temporary control, such as a desk or locker. And D49's pretty much says the same thing, it's just a little bit more short and sweet.
Yeah, sure.
I wanted to mention that I know that in the legal references, the very last one is 4 USC Section 7, which is position and manner of display. But I kind of was looking, there's actually, I think, a couple of other sections that should be referenced. Section 6 of 4 USC is time and occasions for display. And that is where it says, well, number one, it says you should display the flag only from sunrise to sunset. And then, however, when a patriotic effect is desired, the flag may be displayed 24 hours a day if properly illuminated during the hours of darkness. I think that's an important thing to reference. And then also it says the flag should be hoisted briskly and lowered ceremoniously. And I think some of these things are things we need to probably train a little more and just, you know, reflect a little more as we do these things. And it's just, you know, something I don't think we've done. But also Section 7 is the one that this already referred to. Section 8 of USC, 4 USC, is respect for the flag. And just ways that it should never be carried flat or horizontally, but always aloft and free, and different things. I think all those are important things that we need to reflect, that we are referring to, and that we need to maybe look through these and just make sure that we are following all of these
So
things.
Section 7, Section 8. and what was
So
the-
Section
6.
6, 7, and 8.
7 and 8.
6, 7, and 8, yeah. So,
preference on how you'd like this brought back? Do you want us to add those sections? Do you want us to take any verbiage from that, Mary, to add to the policy, or do you just want to reference it so that it's clear that we assume those to be?
Yeah.
covered?
I toyed with that back and forth, but I think as long as they're referenced, and all three of those are referenced, and we recognize that, and we actively kind of pull it and make sure that we are doing the things that it requires. But I don't think we have to put it into the policy itself,
Okay.
because you never know when those things will change. We don't have to change it every little bit, so that'd be good.
So just bring it back. You want to switch out the last sentence of.
Our last
Okay,
paragraph
yeah,
with the last
the
sentence
last
of
one.
D49.
Okay.
And I'd be okay bringing that back on consent. Okay, next up we have EFEA, nutritious food choices.
So this is a policy that is flagged by CASB for us as just a policy that has some minor adjustments that needed to be made. There are no new legal references, but it's really just language. We have had Terry Maher, our Director of Food Service, review, and she has no concerns with the changes. So.
There's just one word I think needs to be added at the very bottom of the first page. The paragraph above it says these standards shall apply to beverages, yada, yada. And then the next paragraph, I think we left out the word standards there, so I think it needs to say these standards shall not apply. So I think the word standards needs to be inserted where we took out state board's nutritional standards for beverages shall, in the,
Okay, so it should say these standards.
yeah. Because
shall
otherwise,
apply.
there's a word
To
missing.
be consistent.
Yeah,
Okay.
and just, I think it's just lacking a word in there, doesn't make sense without it, so.
Okay.
Okay, next up, policy JICI, weapons in school.
So this policy is really just one that has just some minor, very minor changes. We do have to choose one of the options that are prevented, which we're actually choosing to emphasize the disciplinary action for weapons in schools. This is really important because our student discipline policy, while it refers to 2233-106, the facsimile is not in our discipline policy. And so we've had to deal with that very recently, where we had a facsimile of a weapon that actually took a while for police to determine that it was not a real weapon. We need to make sure that we're very clear with our community that toy guns, toy weapons, and nowadays, unfortunately, things that look awfully darn real, that we have a prohibition against those being in schools. So I really felt like this was timely with an incident that we've dealt with recently, and then we would recommend that option 2 be the language that's inserted on the top of the second page.
So, in what situation should we even need to have a replica of a gun on school grounds?
There's not. And yet, there used to be plays where we would use that as a.
Yeah, but that would be
Yeah.
in the props,
There's
on the
really
stage.
there's no situation, and unfortunately, if you point a barrel of a gun at the wrong person, you may not be around much longer.
And that-
And unfortunately, they no longer, or many of them don't have the orange tips that would
No.
differentiate them, so.
Or
So
someone
there
could
is-
fake a real one with an orange tip and you wouldn't know.
Yeah. And when you read this, the language is very clear in the law: carrying, using, actively displaying, or threatening. If you have it, you are violating this code of conduct. So there is no time where a toy gun is acceptable in school. And I think this is critical that, again, we have this policy. This is, I think, timely to bring it forward for the community to hear that. But we may also want to go back to our student code of conduct to make sure that we also reference the facsimile in the language.
Yeah.
Suspendable.
I think that's a good idea.
But call it a toy gun.
Yeah.
So most kids don't know what a facsimile is.
Yeah, that's true, that's true. That's a good point.
Unfortunately, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Toys are one thing, unfortunately, what looks awfully darn real, it's a little more concerning, so.
Yeah. I would like to suggest that, went back, I don't know, a few months ago when we looked at the policy that was on kind of search and different things for the students and all that stuff. We had the Elizabeth Police Department look at it, and we had Tyler look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know at that time of that discussion, Tyler brought up a concern with regard to under the dangerous weapon means, and then there's the fixed blade knife, and there's the spring-loaded knife. And Tyler was concerned about the length requirements, and he felt that the 3 inches and the 3.5 inches kind of respectively on those was still a little too long. And I do know that there's something a little later that kind of addresses in the local restrictions, regardless of length of a blade, if you threaten with it, that it's considered. But I just would like them to look at it, because, I just think we need to listen to that. Now, even during that discussion, then there was the concern that we do live in a rural community, and many students carry a knife, just like, lots of people, a pocket knife, yeah, thank you. And, they will go from school to work, and they'll need it to, if they're working
Cut the twine off
cut
the
the
bales
twine.
of hay.
There we
Doris.
go, exactly, we got it exactly. So anyway, I just think we need to hear some of that discussion a little bit and talk about it
Well,
and
I
hear.
will tell you that 3 inches is highlighted here, because the law says 3 inches is where it becomes a criminal offense.
Oh, okay.
Mandatory.
Oh, I wondered why it was highlighted, okay.
I would agree that probably should be removed, because a fixed blade of 1 inch just doesn't cause pretty significant.
It could, yeah, I don't want to be stabbed by an
Do we know how
inch
long
blade.
pocket knives usually are?
3 inches.
It is.
Yeah. So anyway, just something to talk about. And then also, I know, and just jumping the gun on the thing a little bit, but it's kind of related to this, because we have the document JICI-E exhibit, and this is a brand new document we've never had before. It's got the definition of a firearm from 18 USC section 921, but it seems odd to me that we have separated that out from this policy, and it seems like it should be blended in.
We
So I
actually
don't know if
had
there was a
that.
reason.
We just did not have a date on it, and that's why
Oh.
we felt like we needed to bring that forward.
Okay.
It is restating that specific federal citation.
Yeah.
And basically defining it, so we're bringing it to you so we can date it, because
Okay.
it's been in our policy.
Oh,
manual
okay,
for quite
okay.
some time.
So I thought it was brand new, but it just, did anybody else think it was a little odd to have it totally separated out from just JICI Maine, so to speak? I just thought it was strange, because, we've got a firearm in the list of dangerous weapons, and then we've got this big old huge thing that's the definition of a firearm. It just seems like it should be blended together to me. And there's a couple of tweaks here and there that I think we could look at, but we can kind of do that with, with Tyler and Chief Engel.
Is there anything in JICI that's not in here?
Anything that, I'm sorry,
Is there anything in this that's not in here? I think truly it's here just to emphasize the federal statute.
right,
But I believe when I cross-referenced, everything in here is in the other policy.
yeah, and the statute, the 18 USC section 921 is one of the legal references.
Yep.
So, and then actually all of the references to definition of dangerous weapon and all of these things are referenced out. So I don't know if we specifically need the extra full definition spelled out. I don't know. And there may be a reason that, like Chief Engel would say, well, this is good to have this spelled out in more detail. There may be a reason that he would feel
I do
that.
like defining firearm for readers to know exactly what it is that we're talking about. Because it includes more than just your traditional
Yeah,
handgun.
a bomb, a grenade, a mine. That was a little freaky.
Yeah. I
So,
can certainly do some research before next meeting and
Okay.
get you that from Chief.
okay.
On the JICI policy that we're on, do we want to remove, let me be very clear, we have students who exactly like that. Will forget that they have the pocket knife in their backpack. More often than not, those students will self-identify, come up and say, I forgot to take this out. And obviously, that's not a disciplinary
Yeah,
situation.
right, exactly.
So I think we have to recognize the community we live in, that we do have kids who will go right to work and forget. We had a field trip to the Douglas County Justice Center where teachers reminded students that they were going to be going through security and that anything that they realized that maybe they shouldn't have should be left on the bus seats, and there were a number of smaller pocket knives that that came out and were found on the bus seats. So, you know, smart kids not to take them.
Yes, we don't want
anything.
that.
So I do think it's important that we make it clear that really our schools should be free from any weapons like that, regardless of size. Yes, the statute is triggered when it's 3 inches. 3 inches, you have a legal consequence for that.
Yeah.
But if, yes, it does say if you're threatening, it doesn't matter the size.
Yeah, exactly.
But I
So
do
I
think
was
it's
glad to see
important.
that. That was good under the
And
local
just know that
restrictions.
certainly discretion is being used if it's self-identified.
Yeah,
So.
okay.
So do we want to take out that exceeds 3 inches in length, and are we okay with option 2 as a choice?
Well, if we're gonna do that exceeds 3 inches in length on C, then we should probably take it out on D, a spring-loaded knife, because that one is 3.5 inches in length.
Okay.
So I assume it's the same situation where that's, depending on the style of knife, that the length triggers the criminal level of the offense.
Okay.
So I assume we should take them both out
Okay.
then. And then I do agree with option 2.
Okay, so we'll make those changes. I will get feedback from our police chief on the Gun-Free Schools Act definition of firearm, his thoughts on that, whether they should be merged or whether we want to keep it separate, and then we'll come back with that feedback.
And I think it would be a good idea to, behind the first use of firearm facility, to say like any replica toy gun, like just define
So
that
define it.
so somebody who's reading that
Okay.
understands
Okay.
what we're talking about.
Okay.
And then I think it's also important to note that a student can seek authorization to bring one of those if they're, doing it for a history presentation, some kind of a toy gun of some sort. So we still allow for that if it's educational, but they have to get approval from the
I think
admin.
that's in there.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
Just wanted to point that out, that
Okay.
we allow for exceptions with
Yeah.
admin approval.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a picture on the 3rd floor of Frontier with one of the plays with the kid holding the gun. Every time I go up, I see that. I think, wow, times have changed.
Yeah.
So,
And nothing in a play, I presume, that would actually fire, I'm presuming.
but it sure looked real.
Mhm.
So, at least in the picture. Okay.
All right, and next we have policy GBGH, which is sick leave bank.
So, I think Mary and Nicole were both at our classified advisory council where this was discussed. We have a very generous sick leave bank where all of our employees can contribute a day, and then forbid they have a catastrophic event, they can ask for days from that so that they're not losing compensation. This is after they exhaust their own personal leave. So we do have personal leave or discretionary leave that every employee gets. If they have some left over, it's rolled into sick leave. So they would exhaust their leave before they could access this, except for 2 days. We do allow an employee who's very sick to maintain 2 of their personal days, recognizing they may have graduation, they may have some family situation that really warrants them needing the days. But this sick leave bank policy, what the concern has surfaced is that where you have an employee who chooses to max out on the bank and then resign. Not resign because their health is bad, not resign because they can't come back to work, but basically, well, I just scheduled my surgery when I knew I was gonna quit, so I could get paid through it, and then I'm gonna quit as soon as my sick leave bank runs out. So our staff, both TAC and CAC, have indicated their desire to have us look at this policy, and to state that certainly should someone resign, that the district would take any and all necessary means to recoup those days. Again, those belong to the employees of the district, not someone who's misled the district. And we had a situation where somebody took sick leave bank days for surgery that was supposed to occur, never notified the district that it didn't occur, and then after the first year came back and said, oh, by the way, my surgery was delayed a month, but I used all of the sick leave days, so now I want more sick leave days.
No.
And so it is designed to truly be for employees who need the days. It's a great benefit. This allows not only the clawback, but it also indicates the need for communication. That if you have taken sick leave banks and something's changed, that you communicate. We always have light duty for employees. So if you're having shoulder surgery and maybe you're a paraprofessional and you can't work with a child because of the risk to yourself, there are always other duties we can have you do so that you're still working, you're still earning your paycheck, and we've subbed your duties out and maybe with someone who has duties that you can do. So we really wanted to emphasize that in here. So those are the two changes before you, both requirement of continued communication when you're accessing sick leave bank, and that if you were to resign. Now, we have all accepted, and I think you heard us in TAC and CAC, because our board members present at both, if somebody resigns because they can't come back. We have had employees who have had cancer, who have accessed sick leave bank, their treatment did not go well, there was no way they could return. That's not a time where the district's looking to recoup their days. It's really more of, I'm taking a job in the neighboring district, and thanks for the 80 days
Extra
that
pay.
we've done. So that's the request of our CAC and our TAC to consider those modifications. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Sounds pretty straightforward.
Yeah. The one question I have on M, the one about the clawback thing. At the end, it says, we'll seek repayment of the time used from the sick bank through any means available. Should be, I mean, I'm assuming that's like
I mean, we
from their
ask for
final
back
pay.
if their last paycheck is withheld to cover that. This is granting
Yeah.
them permission to do so.
Should we make that a little more specific, or should we just leave it
I
pretty
think it's
generic?
vague intentionally because, again, there are lots of ways that we can seek repayment from an employee.
Okay.
And it's not something we want to do, like I said. This is just
Yeah,
serviced, unfortunately, in a recent one.
Just in case.
We've
Yeah.
had this for so many years, and it's never been abused. But
Has TAC and CAC actually seen the language?
yeah.
Okay.
I ran it by the leadership.
Okay.
I will send it out before our next board
Yeah.
meeting
Okay.
and make sure that there's no other recommendations.
Okay.
Okay. So with that, we have one remaining item, and that's policy JLCA, sharing of student records, information between school district and state agencies.
So this particular one in our policy audit with CASB, we did surface that we have a paragraph that is not in the model policy. It doesn't mean that it can't be, but we felt like it was important to bring it forward. If we decide to keep it, then we'll just put a review date. If we decide to remove it, we'll revise it. But everything else was identical except for this last paragraph. And obviously, I don't think it was changed when any of you were here. It was 2013. But it says the information shall be used by the Board of Education to determine whether the student has exhibited behavior that is detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of others. So this is specifically in an expulsion hearing, that the board would be able to access information on the students so that they could make the appropriate decision. The board shall take appropriate disciplinary action, which may include suspension or expulsion in accordance with the student code of conduct and related policies. So it's really a desire of whether you want to keep that's been in our policy since 2013, or whether you feel like that's extra.
When you're making a decision, would it be important to have
All the
history?
information.
Yes.
I didn't hear what you said.
I said if you're gonna be making a big decision like that, it would be important to know history.
It's making sure that people understand that you will look at background before you make a decision. You're not
Well-
going to rule from here on an expulsion without knowing the background.
I was thinking it could be truncated some. The information used shall be used by the Board of Education to determine whether the student has exhibited behavior that is detrimental to the safety or welfare of other students or school personnel, period. And then the middle part we could leave out, and then go down to the last sentence, the board shall take appropriate disciplinary action, which may include suspension, yada, yada. I don't know that we need the middle part, and I think we need to truncate that one little first sentence a
I will
little
say
bit.
that the law now says health, safety, and welfare, so we probably should be consistent with that.
Okay, but that's not what it says
Yeah,
now,
it
so
doesn't.
let's
So
do that. So health,
that would
safety, and
be-
welfare, I like that.
Health, safety, and welfare. So do you want to stop there, health, safety, and welfare of other students or school personnel, period? And then-
Yeah, period after personnel, and then the middle stuff you can take out, and then just leave in the last sentence, the board shall take appropriate disciplinary action, blah, blah, blah. That's the official
Everyone
wording.
okay with that?
Sure, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think it still gets at the purpose of the board adding it back as well.
I think so.
Okay. All right, so we'll bring that back to you on consent.
I think that sounds.
JSC, I will bring back to you in person, just so we'll be able to give you the feedback to the chief.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, GBGH, can we bring that back on consent as well? Action pack?
Yeah. I don't have an issue with that, you all have an issue with that.
No. I think as long as the advisory councils get a chance to see it and don't have any feedback that's negative.
Anything negative, just put it back on it.
Okay.
Okay. That was the last item that we had. So our next Board of Education meeting is scheduled for February 24th, 2026, here in the boardroom at
Can I,
Oh.
go ahead, no.
6 p.m. I have it
6
adjourned.
p.m. Sorry, good, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I just wanted to do my little advertisement. Tomorrow is another fundraiser for Elizabeth Education Foundation. Go eat lunch or dinner at Jack's in Elizabeth. And you don't have to even say anything, they'll just give us a percentage of their entire sales for tomorrow. So, and again, Elizabeth Education Foundation helps to fund the teacher grants, the seniors, a couple of senior scholarships, and the STARS Awards, which are coming up on April 11th. That's my
Awesome.
little
Boy, it's
commercial.
coming up quick.
I know, I
Yeah.
know.
That's fine.
All right, so with that, if there's nothing else, I'll call this meeting adjourned at 6:52 p.m.
All right.